All right, good morning, everybody that's in the space already. We're gonna wait a few more minutes. We've got about 2-3 minutes before we start. So for those of you that are in here already, there's a chat. If you click on the bottom bar, there's a little chat. If you wanna ask questions or just say, hey, you can either write messages to just the panelists or to panelists and attendees. All right, Wing says, good morning. Good morning, Wing. Good to see you. Okay. There's also a Q&A area to the very right of that. We're next to raise your hand. If anybody has any questions, you can either pop those into the chat or the Q&A. All right. Morning, Chloe. Morning, Christine. Hey, Sandra, you made it. All right, we've got one more minute. Morning, Alex, or afternoon. I think I'm going to share my screen real quick. Oop. Hey, Erin or Aubrey, I need to be able to be a host to share my screen. If you could do that for me.
One moment.
We could probably make that happen.
Thanks.
All right, you should be all set.
Okay, I'm going to just share this little image right here real quick. In case anybody wants to take a screenshot before we get started, my email address is right here. If you need to reach me for any reason, we can pop that into the chat later. But today we're going to be talking about documenting your design in layout. And I'm going to give like 30 more seconds. Hi, Sherry. Screen this guy. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Tammy Cody. I talked to you yesterday about drawing a bathroom. Today we're going to talk about documenting that in layout. I'm an interior designer in San Luis Obispo, California. And real quick, let me know, I'm sharing the correct screen, right? You're all seeing the documenting the design.
It looks good.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't sharing the wrong screen. Okay. I'm an interior designer here in San Luis Obispo. I run Cody Design Studio, and I also teach SketchUp to interior designers over at SketchUp for interiordesigners.com. And like I said, yesterday we worked on drawing this bathroom here. And today we're going to document this in layout. If you, let's see here, I'm going to spin around a bit and show you a little bit more of the model. If you've never used layout, it is basically the paper version of your SketchUp model. So layout is where all of your documentation will live, your annotations, dimensions, mood boards, images, things like that. So I really enjoy using layout just because I really want to keep my SketchUp model, just my SketchUp model. I know you can add dimensions and text to your SketchUp model, but you have a lot more control over that in layout. And I'll show you layout in a moment, but I wanted to click through a few of these scenes in SketchUp to kind of show you how they correspond to that. And if you've never used layout, it comes with SketchUp Pro. It's a separate application, but it's all part of SketchUp. So real quick, I will click through these and it will make more sense once we hop over to our layout document. So I've got these different scenes set up. Some of them have section cuts taken out of them. They are different styles, different tags are on or off. So I've done the work ahead of time to set these up. Got a couple more to click through here. And whoop, that one's not working. So, or that one is working, it's the wrong one. Okay, so I've done the work ahead of time to set these up so that I can then put them into this layout document. So these viewports here will look familiar as I clicked through those scenes. Those scenes are now documented here on paper. So this first page, I've got an elevation view over top of a floor plan. And you can see as I click around in my layout file, these are different viewports. So they each have their own bounding box. This is basically my SketchUp model put on to a piece of paper. If you hear that noise, a street sweeper is driving by. So sorry if everyone can hear that. It's about to get a little loud. It's good timing, right at the start of my presentation. I might wait for a moment. It's so loud.
This is events in the year 2020 and 2021.
Can you all hear that? It's so loud. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so I've got, if I zoom out a bit, you can see that this is actually a piece of paper. So this is a tabloid size piece of paper. I can print this 11 by 17. And this is the best way, in my opinion, to print out your SketchUp model. It's the best way to present to your clients, to create permits, construction documents, mood boards, things like that. And the reason I think it's the best way is that as your SketchUp model changes, so will your layout documents. So if I decided to swap out these sconces here, or these pendant lights, it would then update that change in my layout document. So you're not having to export your SketchUp file over and over again into a separate program every single time you make a change. They are dynamic, and the two talk to each other. So I'm going to click through a few more pages here. Layout just keeps getting better and better, more and more features with every new release. And I'll talk about a few of those features in a few moments. The street sweeper is just going up the other side of the street. What are the chances? Okay, so you can see a few of these pages. All right, but I also want to draw attention over to the right of the page. I've gotten a little bit creative over here on the right with the title block. This document isn't for construction purposes, so I've put a little creative spin on it, but SketchUp provides you with a lot of different title block options, and I'll show you real quickly what those options are. So we've got templates and title block. So this is under the Welcome to Layout page, but you can see there's a lot of professional title block options here. So those are available for you to choose from. But I've chosen to create my own, and you can also save templates like this one so that every time you create a file, it goes to that template. All right. Let's hop back over to the SketchUp model and talk about how I got that elevation view. All right, so I'm going to recreate this section cut here, and we'll talk about how we get here from here, and then send that to layout. All right, so basically, the fastest way to get that cut is to place a section plane. So I'm going to go to Tools, Section Plane, and now I have this box, or this plane attached to my cursor. If I move around my SketchUp model, it's aligning with the face that I hover over. So I'm going to cut through this area, so I'll hover over my mirror, click and release, and it set the plane down, and it's taking a slice right out of my model. So section plane, it wants us to name our section plane. So I'm going to call this elevation, and my symbol is going to be EV1. Whoop. And I'm going to click OK. And the reason I named it, some people just hit enter and let the default numbers go. But the reason I named it is because I often have a lot of section planes in my model because I'm taking all kinds of cuts. So it's easy to figure out which one corresponds with which scene if you name it and allow it to have a symbol right here. So now that I've named it, placed it, I can move that. So I'm going to pre-select it, tap my M for move, and move it back just a little bit so that it's got, you know, the correct depth. So I want to be able to show the vanity, but I don't want to go all the way back. So I'm going to click and release right there. And now that I've set it, I can right-click on the section plane and choose Align View. All right, now I'm looking straight on, aligned with the that wall, or it's also aligned to the right. You can see in the upper left-hand corner there. And now I need to change a few things about the style before I set this scene. So I still see my section planes. I can turn those off by going to View Section Planes and turning those off, or I can change that in the Styles window. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open that. And I'm going to go to Select. So I have a few styles that I've altered already, but I will just show you how I got there. I'm going to go to my default styles, and I'm going to choose Hidden Line. So this is kind of where I usually start at my Hidden Line style. You can see I'm missing a little bit of geometry. And I'll talk about why that happens. And I can't see my pendants. I can't see the hose on my shower head, but I'll move past that in a moment. Okay, so I've chosen my style. I'm still looking at it in 3D, which is sometimes really helpful if you have a small space that you're trying to see into and you're trying to get in, especially bathrooms, large closets, things like that. You can usually take a section cut and work in there really easily. So it's not always just for elevation views. You can also get into a small space in this way for working on it. Okay, so let's alter this style a little bit more. I'm going to click on the Edit Scene, or the Edit option there, and click on my edges. So, like I said, we're missing some geometry, or the view of the geometry here, and sometimes that happens because your profiles aren't turned on. So it's nice to have your profiles turned off when you're working because it kind of speeds up the model efficiency. But when you want to see things that are supposed to appear round, it might be helpful to turn your profiles on. We're still missing these handles here, so I'll talk about why those aren't showing up. But just be sure to check out the profiles when you're setting these black and white styles. Okay, I'm going to pop over to Parallel Projection. So that's Camera, Parallel Projection. And so we're getting somewhere. We're still in the Styles box, or the Styles window, and I'm going to tap on Edit Mix, the very last icon here, this blue cube. That's our modeling options. So there's a lot going on in here, but what I like to do, I've got this section fill here, and that's SketchUp's Poche. I'm going to change the color of that because it just looks really heavy. And I usually like to do a nice, like a charcoal gray. So I'm going to choose that color here. Oop. Let's make sure, there we go. All right, so you can make that darker, lighter. I'm happy with that. And then I also have these section lines. So we've got these lines cutting through our ceiling and a few of our floors. I'm going to change that also so that it's the same color as my section fill, so that it looks like a nice solid wall here. Okay, lastly, in this area, I've got my section line width. It just looks really thick and heavy. So I'm going to change that to a 1 or a 2, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so I've changed enough about this style at this point. I would really like to save this. And so I'm going to add a style, and I'm going to call it my elevation style. And that way, hit Enter and click Update. And that way I can reuse this style when I take another section cut. So if I were to take a cut of an adjacent wall, I can hop back to my styles window, click on Home, and I can see that I already have an elevation style available to apply to another scene. So that's a really helpful way to not have to constantly recreate these styles for every single section cut that you take. Okay, I also need to make sure that I've added a scene so that I don't lose this work. I'm going to go ahead and right click up here and choose Add Scene. I'm going to right click again and choose Rename It, and I'm going to call it Elevation, let's see, 1. Okay, so now when I click from front view, I've got the beach block. I can go from front view really quickly over to elevation 1. Oop, it's not saving my camera view, so let's see why that's happening in our scenes window. Oh, off screen. Sorry, it's thinking. Okay, so I didn't save my camera, excuse me, my camera location, so I need to make sure that that is checked. And I'm going to go ahead and realign this. So I don't want to have to turn on my section plane again. So I'm just going to double click into this mirror, right click and choose Align View. I can click off of that, and now I'm aligned with that mirror. I can go back to parallel projection. I'm going to zoom extents, hit Shift Z, and then again, right click, update this scene here. Okay, before we send this to layout, I want to mention one more thing. These handles are still not showing up. When I click on my textures here, I can see that there are indeed handles here, but when I click on elevation, I'm not getting that line work showing up. And the reason for that is that somebody probably hid all of those edges or softened them so that the texture would show up really well when the textures are on. Good for textures, not so much for when we're looking at it in 2D. So I'm going to double click into this handle group, and you can see there is in fact some edges in there. So I'm going to go to View, or sorry, Edit, Unhide All. And now we've got those edges. There's just a few too many at this point, so you can soften those manually, or you can go to just select them all, and we'll go to our Soften Smooth Edges window here and just adjust those. So I'm just going to use the slider until enough of them are showing. I'm happy with that. I'll click off into some white space, and now our handles are showing in 2D. Sorry, my computer's thinking. I think I just, you know what I did? I totally made a rookie mistake. Oh, nope, I'm good. Maybe not. Sorry, my computer's starting to creep a little bit. Everybody, 1 second. Okay, I did not wreck my file. Yay. Okay. So we've got elevation 1, handles are showing up, all of these nice edges are showing up, got a good style going on. Okay, I'm going to hit save, Command S to save that, and I'm going to go ahead and send that over to layout. So that icon is here, send to layout, and I can choose a template. I can either choose from SketchUp's default templates here, choose my paper size, or I can go to my templates, and I've saved that one that I showed you before. So I'll go ahead and click on that thumbnail. And it's going to put that scene directly onto the page for me. And I've got a little work to do over here, but that's okay. All right, so I've got my elevation on there. We're still missing a little bit of line work, but I'll talk about that in a moment. This is where we will now scale our drawing to a specific scale. We can either do that. We've got our SketchUp model window. This is a really important one in layout. Another important one is going to be our shape style. So these are all important, but these are the 2 windows that I use the most. All right, so if I select my viewport, you can see, oh, I'm running out of time so quickly. I'm gonna make sure and make it through a few of these things. You can see the current scale is just some Gerbil garbage. It doesn't make sense. So I would like to make sure that this is a very specific scale so that somebody can take an architectural ruler to it when they print it out. So I can choose that here. I can also right click on this viewport and choose a specific scale in this way. So I chose a 1/2 inch scale. I'm gonna run through a few things in my other file. Now that we've seen how to get this onto a piece of paper, I want to show you a few cool things about layout. And feel free to email me if you have any more questions about what I just did. But a cool thing about layout on this page would be that this viewport here is pulling it directly from my SketchUp model, as you saw before. I can double click into this viewport and change the view of my model. I can zoom in and out. I can change that. I can orbit and pan, and then I can click off of it to set that. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to hop over to my dimensions. I've got dimensions here. I can change these dimensions in my, again, my shape style window and my dimension style window. So I can change this from feet and inches to just inches in my dimension style window, from architectural to fractional, so that's inches. I can also change these slashes from slashes to, we've got all these options here in our shape style. I think default one for this one was the arrow. So let's say we want arrows instead, or dots. Those are two different arrows. But we can change the style. We can also change the line weight of those leader lines in our shape style window. We can change the color of it. Let's just go ahead and make it red and really thick, just so that you can see the difference. All right. So once we've set a style of one dimension in SketchUp, we can sample that using this eyedropper here. So I'm going to select sample that dimension, and then I'll click around on the other dimensions here and apply those. And now when I add any more dimensions, it will remember that style and apply them. And now I can double click and continue to set those dimensions. Another thing that I really like about the dimensions and layout is that I have the ability to choose how far this leader line goes into my model. Don't like it when they touch the model if I can help it. So I'm going to double click into that dimension line and move that up off of the model. Again, I can sample that and apply it to the other leader lines. All right, I'm going to hop through, look at my notes real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, one of the really cool new things about layout in a somewhat recent release was that we can now affect the tags. So in this view here, I've got the property line and I've got my topography lines. So if I select my viewport, all right, I've got my viewport selected. If I open my SketchUp model window, you can see that I have the option to affect the tags. So I've set these tags up in SketchUp so that my property line is on a tag, my topography lines are on a tag, and I can toggle those on and off here in layout as well. But I can also click over here under dashes and change the color of that line, and I can change the dash cadence as well. So I've changed that to reflect a property line. Let's go ahead and change that color to an orange and then click OK. So this is really helpful if you need to redline a drawing. Say a wall is coming down and you want to make it dashed in red. You can just put that wall on a tag and turn it red here in SketchUp, or here in layout. And I get a lot of questions about line weight in SketchUp. So layout is where you would change the line weight for different features of your SketchUp drawing. So this is a really cool new feature. I was really happy about this in a recent release. So SketchUp model tags. But something I really want to drive home about layout in SketchUp is that you have to set up your SketchUp model in a way that you're thinking forward to your layout file. And that not only goes for your SketchUp model, or your SketchUp model itself, but also your file organization on your computer. So I know I struggle with this, my file organization, as far as, saving a million things to the desktop and then organizing it later when I absolutely have to. So with layout, if I were to insert something like, say, these, let's see where it's that little texture. So these guys, I cannot just copy and paste these from a website or from somewhere on my desktop. I need to make sure that these are organized in a way on my computer that they will stay in the folder Here, I'll just show you my folders real quick. Let me open this up. All right, so I've got my KBIS here. Okay, so you can see that I have these saved as textures in a texture folder. So when we insert something into layout, it is giving it a path, and I'll show you that in our document setup. So these are all the things that are in my layout file, and these are paths to a space on your computer. So if I were to move one of these textures out of that folder, that link is going to get broken. So you may have, if you've used layout in the past, you may have experienced a red X where some of the images were, and that's probably because you moved them to a different folder, and layout can no longer follow that path to that image. So just make sure if you decide to make a mood board or bring in any images or any SketchUp files into your layout file, that you organize your folders ahead of time. So email me if you're confused about what I'm talking about, but just know, stay organized for layout success.
Perfect. You got about 5 minutes left, Tammy, and
Okay.
there's 2 questions hanging out in Q&A for you.
Okay, do you want to read those questions for me, Aaron?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
the first question was about managing design changes in SketchUp while documenting the project in layout. I think they're talking about the sync between SketchUp and layout.
Sorry, what's the question? Is it?
They're wondering how you manage changes as you're going through SketchUp and layout.
Manage changes. Go ahead and look.
So do you have anything special that you do as you...
I see. Okay. Josh is wondering about if I change something in SketchUp, how will it look in layout? So thanks for that question, Josh. Glad you asked. I thought you would have known that. Just kidding.
That's surprised.
Josh works for SketchUp. He knows. He's just setting me up for a question. Okay, so let's say I decide to switch these pendants out, or I decide I'd like to move them right to the middle, which is a bad design choice. Don't condone doing this, but let's say I decided I wanted to do this. So I've made a change, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. File save. And now I'm back here in my layout file. I see they're not changed yet. I can right-click and choose Update Model Reference, and those two should move to the middle. There we go. So you change something in SketchUp, save it, pop back to your layout file, and update model reference. So right-click, Update Model Reference, and that should update each viewport that you have that's being pulled from that file. Now, sometimes it doesn't change and people are like, oh, why am I making changes? And it's not happening, it's not changing in my layout file. And it is almost about 99% of the time because you moved that SketchUp file into a different folder, like I was talking about before, that organization. So you can either right-click and choose Relink. My eyes aren't working, it's here somewhere. Oh, Relink Model Reference. And just make sure that it's linked to the correct SketchUp file. Like I said, it's almost always that's the issue, that it got moved somewhere and that path got broken. So you can either relink it there, or you can go to File, Document Setup, and relink things here. So this is everything that is in this file, making sure that it's linked, correctly on the files on your computer. If it's not linked correctly, it's going to turn red, and you'll see it right away. What was the other question?
Yale was asking if you could real quick show the eyedropper for Max Properties again.
Oh, where's that? Okay, sure. So let's
I think it said Max Properties, I meant Match, sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. You can even do that for styles. So it's right up here, it's next to the eraser tool, so eyedropper. I can click on the style of this SketchUp viewport, and I can apply it here and apply that style. So it's not just for dimensions. I'm gonna go ahead and undo that. It's not just for dimensions, it's for almost everything. So if something has a border around it, or is like these edges here are green, I can sample those borders and apply it to these guys. So it's real subtle, but you can see these now have that same green border. So helpful for having consistent styles. This is where I head to all the time. So if you have a text, if you add text to your file and you want to capture that font and color, you can sample it, and then every text box that you use from that point out will have that style applied. So this guy is a big help, this eyedropper. Okay, let me look at, Meg said, how to make sure you have the most current release of SketchUp or layout. Maybe Aaron can answer that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple ways. The easiest thing to do is to go up to your SketchUp menu and choose About SketchUp and check the version there.
Okay, perfect. And then Aaron asked, can you show how to do a section cut on the diagonal? So that's a great question. I've got one diagonal wall here. And then also I want to note that, I'll show that in a moment, but I took the section cut here and I left the tub out of this. So there's a few cool things that you can do with section cuts, placing them within a group. So if I have time, I only have 1 minute. Okay, I'll answer Aaron's question. If anybody wants to know about this, let me know. All right, so same process. I am just going, oh man, those sconces look great in the middle, right? Okay, so I'm gonna place a section plane here. I'm gonna align it with the angled wall. Click and release. I'm not gonna name it this time. And you can see that this guy is the angled one. So I'll pre-select that, move it into place, move it front or back. Go ahead and move it back here. Right click on, and I like to zoom out just to make sure that I kind of swing wide with this, because I don't want to accidentally right click on any of the other section cuts here. So I'll right click and choose Align View, and now it's aligning with that angled cut. And then the cool thing about this is I've already set up a style. I can go to Styles and Model, and I can click on my section cut style. I'll hop down to Parallel Projection, and it looks a little funky because I haven't controlled what's behind it, but this is my angled wall cut here. So hope that answers your question, and of course set the scene, but you'll want to right click Align the View with your cut.
Awesome. I had a couple more questions following up, but I think they're kind of details on on those. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap up now. It's a good sign. You always leave them wanting more. That's a key feature in a good presentation.
Can I say one more thing, Aaron? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I just saw, she said, what if the room is square and you want to take an angled cut? So really quick, if you go to view your section planes, you can actually rotate your section plane. So I can pre-select this, hit my letter Q here, and I can rotate. I can choose the pivot point here, but I can actually rotate these section planes and then align that view. So that was a really great question. This is like something we don't always think about, but we can rotate everything in SketchUp. Anyway, so that was my last thought.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sure you got more thoughts than that. And people,
my last thought that I'm going to say.
People can come and get those comments though at sketchupforinteriordesigners.com. Yeah. Check out, Tammy has a bunch of great learning content, and you teach too, right? So if people want to dive deep into specific things, they can contact you for that.
Yes, and I will be here tomorrow. I'm going to be showing some tips. If you've been to the SketchUp booth, if you were lucky enough to get to it, or if you've seen the video on YouTube, I did a video with Tommy Rouse about drawing a house in Tahoe, and I'm going to be showing that tomorrow morning, the same time, some tips and tricks from that video. So be sure to check that out tomorrow and check out the video.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you, Tammy, for showing us some awesome tricks and tips and good information. Those of you who are still hanging around looking for more SketchUp knowledge, we do have another presentation starting in half an hour if you want to hang out and watch that one. So
with Aaron.
Again, that's right. Some guy's going to hack through some non-professional, non-interior designer type.
Yeah, it'll be great. Let's all come back in a half an hour. We'll see you all there.
It'll be fun. All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you all soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.